our first speaker to honor Senator Nielsen will be Senator Bates.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's difficult to come up with some other things about the Dean of the Senate. He has done so much, so I gave it my best shot here, Jim, and let me go at it. It's an honor and a privilege to share some remarks on the incredible career and the indelible mark that our Senate Dean, Jim Nielsen, has made on this institution. He is referred to as the Dean because he has the distinction of being the longest serving member in the history of the state legislature. The youngest member elected to the Senate in 1978, and the youngest member elected to serve as Senate Republic leader in 1983 to 1987, and I think that exceeds what I got, or what Shanna got, or what a few others got, so you did a great job on that, I'm sure, Jim. I think we could all agree, in addition to the title of Dean, he personifies the true definition of a statesman as found in the dictionary. One who is versed in the principles of art of government, a wise, skillful, and respected leader. This wise, skillful, and respected leader has been inducted into the Halls of Fame of the San Joaquin Valley Athletic Hall of Fame and the Association of Black Correctional Workers Hall of Fame. He's received over 50 Legislator of the Year awards from organizations representing taxpayers, engineers, prison guards, colleges, healthcare, veterans, law enforcement, crime victims, water agencies, farmers, the API community. This is just a partial list. And you all know how political mailer listings of awards and endorsements often have in small print partial lists. I think we've all had a few of those. At the bottom of the mailer, it says partial lists. Well, this list of Senator Nielsen's awards is truly just a partial list, because the complete list I reviewed, I kid you not, was over 2.5 pages, small print. So very, very huge list that would take me more time than I've been allowed to share with you. But the list is a testament to his tireless advocacy and top priority to serve as the voice of his constituents in over 19 counties he has represented during his long time of service. In recent years, Jim's district communities have had more than its share of natural disasters that are part of the challenges we face as Californians. These disasters have brought devastation and despair, but it's also brought the best in our citizens, and Jim stands out as one of those. In February 2017, when heavy rainfall damaged Oroville Dam's main and emergency spillways, prompting the evacuation of more than 180,000 people living downstream along the Feather River in Butte, Yuba, and Sutter counties, Jim was there. Jim was there. Jim was there on the job, working and monitoring the situation on a daily basis to ensure his constituents had up-to-the-minute reports on progress to avoid any loss of lives or loss of property to the extent that would have been possible at that time. When the Camp Fire erupted in November 8th, 2018 in the Sierra Nevada foothills, it killed 85 people, destroyed nearly 19,000 homes, businesses, and other buildings, and ultimately razed the town of Paradise. Jim was there, again on the job. The devastation of the Camp Fire broke his heart as he walked through what was once the town of Paradise. But even as Jim grieved for those communities and members and people, he never gave up. He became a fierce advocate for the victims of the fire and successfully led the effort to allow Adventist Health to establish a temporary emergency room to care for the local residents, eliminating a 40-minute drive to the nearest hospital. Over the years I have served with Jim, I have marveled at his breadth of knowledge on so many issues and his eloquence in respectfully expressing his passion for or against a particular policy issue. His respect for the institution and its long-standing tradition and rules is what motivates him to speak up when he believes those are falling to the wayside. He has not only been a dear friend, but also a mentor with a steadfast hand who helped me immensely in navigating the drama that follows the job of party leader, and we all know about that, or some of us do. And he kind of used Laura Bush's famous quote, "Whatever stays in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas." He often reminded me, whatever drama goes on in the leader's office stays in the leader's office, and postscript if you really want to keep the job. So, members, while Senator Jim Nielsen addresses us in his opening statements, as the ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, it is the Senate who will be losing the gentleman of the Senate. It is a bittersweet moment, Jim, for all of us to say goodbye, yet laud you and your accomplishments that reflect the best of all of us in the policy arena. You will be missed. We thank you so much for your 30 years of service and dedication to this institution, this state, and the people of California. We wish you the very best in retirement as you pursue a new path that will, I believe, always include service to your beloved district communities and unfettered love for your family, the thousands of constituents and friends who have stood by you, walked the walk on this incredible path of passionate and honorable service you have carved on the face of California. Thank you, Jim.
Next speaker will be Senator Hertzberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is both an honor to follow on to the Republican leader emeritus and to have been asked to add my thoughts and congratulations and observations with respect to Senator Nielsen. Senator Nielsen does not deserve the title Dean of the Senate because of his long tenure. He deserves that title because of his deep respect for this institution. He is, as he has said before, a man of this institution. He believes in us, he believes in the institution, and he believes in our rules. He believes, as Senator Bates says, in civility and respect. He is a person of the Senate and holds senatorial courtesy, as he will tell you, as one of his highest principles. I have been privileged to have that benefit, many times asking him for a courtesy vote when one of my party wasn't there for a meeting and I had to go, and he offered that courtesy many times, irrespective of what criticisms he may have received. Senator Bates indicated, represents 19 counties. I can't imagine. I represent one small piece. 5 governors he served under. 5 governors. Been a leader for many years. His contributions, in addition to what Senator Bates indicates, are nothing less than extraordinary. Just a couple of additional examples. Intimately involved in the revision of California's Education Master Plan, not a small undertaking. Authored the Public Library Foundation Act in 1982 and established the California State Library Foundation, an indispensable resource and archives for our great and important history. He worked to strengthen water reliability, securing unprecedented funding for the site's reservoir if it ever gets built. He tirelessly served as California's face of insurmountable and fatal tragedies, as Senator Bates indicated. And the one that I got, in addition to the wildfires, I went on one of those big whirlybirds with those big double helicopters and watched him fight like the Dickens for the community, fight like the Dickens to try to persuade us to help on the Oroville Dam disaster, to show it us firsthand. And he did it with energy in his face and commitment in his heart and service, which is what he's all about. When I was chair of the Assembly, the Public Safety Committee in the other house, more than 25 years ago, I came over to visit Jim when he was the head of the prison parole board. You were the head of the parole board. I sat in your office. I sat and listened and established a relationship then and have sought your guidance ever since. It was smart then. It continues to be smart today. As the the Republican leader emeritus mentioned, a couple of the Hall of Fames, amazing. It's actually 5 Hall of Fames. 5 Hall of Fames that Senator Nielsen is a part of. 2 for athletics. I didn't know that. He was a track runner. He's in the Fresno Hall of Fame and the Great Valley Hall of Fame for his athletic abilities. He's also listed as in the Hall of Fame as Sanger, city he represented and where he's from. And it was mentioned Future Farmers of America Hall of Fame and the Black Correctional Officers Hall of Fame. Extraordinary, in addition to all the other legislators of the year and all the other things that he has done. We're proud of you. Your legacy that you leave with us is, in your work, I think, is respect for the institution, understanding that civility and the importance. And as I close, I wanted to just think about it, and I just wrote this comment down, that people like you don't govern for the next election. You govern for the next generation. You have a much longer view, both for the institution. Look, we have all been through this place and their ups and downs, but at the end of the day, this is the chamber where democracy happens. We praise and talk about democracy, and it's not always easy, but you make it easier because you are unbelievable in how you treat your job. We will miss you, and I thank you for your contributions to California, not just to the people that you serve, but to your example that you set for all the rest of us. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senator Nielsen.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I must confess that I've had some anxiousness as I anticipated the departure. For many of the weeks, it's just been abstract, and now it's real. And I come here with a bit of trepidation about it. But I come here deeply humbled and honored that people have still saw fit to allow me to be their representative, to serve them. The most important task is not legislation, not just voting for bills. The most important responsibility that we have, the day-to-day thousands of small things we do for the people that we represent. As a young farm boy, I wanted to compete in athletics. I wanted to get my degree, and I wanted to farm. My life was very simple, and that's exactly what I did. I had no ambition to do anything more. I didn't involve myself in student government. Working on the dairy and doing my athletics was about all I could handle, plus my education. Then I got out and began to farm. I went from a 200-cow dairy to a 33,000-acre ranch as a foreman. And I realized that most of my problems were not crops, not pests, not the weather, not water. My biggest daily problem was government. So I asked myself, well, what are you doing about it? And I said, well, I vote. Good. What else? Nothing. Hadn't done anything else. And so I decided that I needed to get active, and I did in my industry, nationwide. I began to get active in community activities, learning about the area, and learning the venues where I could be more effective for things I cared about. School board bonds and budget advisory committees and redistricting committees, whatever. And then I took a look at the current lineup in the legislature. I thought it needed to be changed. The incumbent had been there 12 years. He was from a dynastic family in Napa Valley. 60% Democrat, 30% Republican. I was the only one that thought I could win. So I went around and introduced myself, and people would acknowledge, nice guy. Can't win, but nice guy. I kept coming around. I said, well, he's a nice guy, can't win, but he's sure working hard. And then a tide began to turn. John Dunlap was my opponent. We honored him just a few months ago. He passed away just under 100 years old. He was an ultra-liberal, unabashed, carried legislation that the district did not like, but he stayed with it. And I admired him. As we campaigned, he did not relent. He did not come back to the middle. He stayed right what he believed. And I respected him for that. Well, I got a call election night from John, and he conceited, and I gratefully observed I'd certainly welcome his advice as I began. He said, "Oh, Jim, you wouldn't pay any attention to me." Well, it actually didn't work out that way. Among other things, years later, he invited me to come to speak to his class, political science class at Napa College. And we stayed in very regular touch. And I very emotionally gave tribute to John Dunlap a few weeks ago. And ironically, as I was coming to the chambers that day, these people got into the elevator. I didn't know who they were, but I'm always friendly. How are you? Who are you? And then afterwards, I went up to greet them and to bring them down to show them John's picture here. That was his family. I didn't even know that. But it felt good to honor a man who had done his part, who was a gentleman. And I vowed that I would be that same kind of a gentleman. Now, when we all come here first, everybody has to figure us out. What is this new senator all about? Well, for me, they tried to figure out why I always wore cowboy boots. Always wore cowboy boots with my three-piece suits. Gail Wilson called me when Pete was reelected to the Senate, said, "Are you coming back for the ceremony, you in Maryland?" "Yeah." "Well, you got to be here because I've written a song about Pete and you're in it." "I'm in it? How would I be in Don't you just come." Well, her song was about style, that Pete Wilson was a man of style. And as an example of style, pinstripe suits and cowboy boots, that's style. So as I'm writing my life book, I think we're going to call it Pinstripe Suits and Cowboy Boots. But there's a reality to that. Cowboy boots, to me, I guess, would be my roots, my values, what I call hard-pan values of the farm. And I never wanted to forsake those. Never wanted to change what I was, nor ever forget where I came from. Small town, valley town. Wonderful values in that small valley town, and then the Lord guided me to a broader stage, a broader place to serve Him. And every day, many times through the day, I say, trust in the Lord, lean not on thy own understanding, always acknowledge Him and He will direct your course. Well, that has kept me on course over the decades. I've been blessed with 5 children and 3 grandchildren. The day I was sworn in, my second daughter, Brandy, was kneeling in the aisle, middle aisle there. As I walked back to give her a hug, she said, "Dad, you're in George Washington's house." That sign, that painting up there is what meant everything to the world to her, that this was George Washington's house, and I was now a part of it. And I've enjoyed thoroughly being a part of it, and knowing men and women who have served here since the 30s, being their friend. Senator Ralph Dills and I used to call each other not senators, but brothers. And that was born of his era when the brotherhoods, the clubs, the Elks Club, the Woodmen of the World, those were the very powerful places in government. Well, Brother Dills and I had another connection. His name was Hugh Burns from Fresno. 14 years was the pro tem of this Senate. Democrat. Well, it's a great story. When I first ran, Hugh Burns endorsed me, as did Randy Collier, the White Knight of the Siskiyous, he was called, and Chancellor Emil Mrak, Chancellor of UC Davis, all Democrats. After the election, the Bee wanted to do a story of the connection of Jim Nielsen and Hugh Burns and these other Democrats. So we went down to Hugh's house. He lived in South Sacramento at the time. And we sat down, and we actually have a picture of this moment. Hugh turned to me and said, "Did you know Jim Nielsen in Fresno?" I said, "Yes, knew that was my grandfather." He said, in 1937, when I first ran for the assembly, your grandfather was a very important man in town. He was a Republican, and he endorsed me. The story was written. 40 years later, Hugh Burns returned the favor. But not a quid pro quo kind of favor. It couldn't have been. But it was kind of instilled in me at that early age, senatorial courtesy. Your obligation isn't financial. It's a matter of the heart. James Peter Nielsen helped Hugh Burns, and Hugh Burns wanted to return the favor. And I'm so delighted that I got to know those legends of this house. When I came here, Jim Mills was the pro tem, San Diego. As I leave here, Tony Atkins is a pro tem, San Diego. There's something stable about that. Maybe some things don't ever change. One of my interesting moments, I guess, I was elected Republican leader in 1983. And I came through that door out of the Maddie Lounge, and the press swarmed around me. Many of you have been leaders. You'll know what I'm talking about here. And the press said, "What's it like now, Jim? You're a Republican leader." I said, "Well, it means I'm going to have lousy pictures printed, be misquoted, and taken out of context to a grander scale than ever before." Well, that proved right, because we immediately, George Duke Mason convened the Big Five, so I go to the Big Five meeting, and we read in the newspaper the next day, the Big Five met yesterday, and this is what they talked about, and this is the deal they made. I said, we didn't even talk about that. That taught me about the press, that I was right on. And the press has been a challenge, but I've found if you be accessible to them, you'll be okay. In fact, another mentor of mine was another prominent Democrat. He was the owner of the Woodland Daily Democrat newspaper. The founders was a member of the Board of Equalization of California and the owner of that paper. His son carried on the tradition, and I got acquainted with him because I was active in the community. So one day I go in to see him. He said, "Jim, what you hear about?" Well, I said, "Ken, I got a problem with your paper." "What's your problem?" "Well," I said, "you've got 3 columns every week. They're all by Democrats." "Well, they're our elected representatives." I said, "I don't have a problem with that. That's okay." "Well, then what are you talking about?" I said, "You need to present another side." He didn't blink. He looked across that table at me and he said, "Okay, give me 500 words every Monday before 11. What do you want to call your column?" And I stammered, I'm a farmer. I'm not a journalist." He said, "Nah, you write these letters to the editor. You do a pretty good job. But give it a try." Well, what he did for me forced me to think about something to write about every week. Number 2, what to write, how to take an opinion, how to be criticized for that opinion, how to extol the virtues of whatever it was that I was trying to advance, to deepen my political thinking and my political acumen. So Ken Leake did me a great favor. And I enjoyed my years of service here, the first 12 years. The district changed. In fact, I lost my home, I think now 3 times in redistricting. And I lost in 1990 by a few votes. Doesn't make any difference. I lost. So then I go back to agriculture, and I got a call from Governor Wilson. "Jim, I want to appoint you chairman of the Board of Parole Hearings. Go clean up that parole mess." I never realized what a mess it was or how difficult it would be to do anything about that area. Nothing in those 10 years was pleasant to be dealing with. The hardest, most egregious things you could ever have to deal with. But that was the Lord's will, and he put me there for his purpose. One more funny story. I went down to California Men's Colony to meet with the warden over some issues at the prison there. Got back into town about 9 at night. My mother was called. She wanted some aspirin and some candy. Well, I wanted to go out and jog. I had my jogging clothes on, actually, and jog and come back and go to bed. Well, I knew if I didn't get that for Mom at 9 o'clock at night, I'd be doing it at 3 in the morning. So I might as well go ahead and get it now. I go down to Safeway, get the packages, and I'm standing 4 in line to check out. As I'm waiting, the lady opened the cash register, began to do change, and this man rushed in the door, shoved the bag kid aside, shoved her aside, and started grabbing things out of the cash register and stuffing it in his shirt. Now, I am not trained to be a law enforcement professional at all. But I remember feeling, that's not okay. That's not okay in this town. So I put the package down. He spun around, slugged the bag kid, and ran out the door. I said, I bet he's going to go around Long's Drugs and come up this street. So I got in my van and, in fact, intercepted him. And I pulled out, and he's chugging up the street, and you could tell that he was losing the chug. But the funnier part, I'm glancing out of my peripheral vision, 2 Safeway dudes are in pursuit. But I could tell in that split second they wanted to be in pursuit, but not to catch. So my mind says, no help here. So I took out after him. Now, this was right out of Keystone Cops. He starts darting into the back patios of an apartment complex. Now, we're not going through gates. We're going over the fences. Bang, bang, bang. Lights are coming on. Dogs are barking, knocking stuff all over the place. In the 4th patio, I finally catch up with him. He tries to climb over a fence into a schoolyard. I grabbed him by the belt, pulled him down off the fence, kicked his feet out. He started fighting, so I kicked his feet out and jammed him down on the floor, on the ground, held my forearm to his neck, and he starts yelling, I'm desperate, I'm down on my luck, things are bad for the family. I said, fine, just stay still. Well, then the Safeway heroes arrive on the scene, da-da-da-da, and they start bam, 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 hitting the guy. I said, stop, don't hit the man. Stay here with me, but don't hit him anymore. Then the Woodland PD arrives on the scene, big flashlight. Senator, what in the hell are you doing here? I said, well, if he's a parolee, I have got his rear end. He ended up being a man deeply troubled, a correctional officer from Lake County, 6'4", 240 pounds. Now, if I'd known that, I would not have been so brave, I'm sure. But when I went home and told Marilyn, she looked at me and she said, you got a wife and 5 children, you did what? No, oh, honey, you're my hero. Never did that again. But it was interesting, let's say it that way. And those experiences, I suppose, the parole board seasoned me considerably. Showed me some of the good in life and some of the bad. But the Senate has always been, and always will be, most dear to me. I love this Senate chamber. I love the Senate. I love that I've been able to serve here as long as I have. Do good things with those people. And know people like you who are sacrificing, and I know the sacrifice that you make. I tell those of you who come here when you first get here, you know, I said, once the swearing in occurs, the swearing at begins. It's not always pleasant, but you put up with it. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I love the Senate and I love you. I treasure our years together, and you now have become a part of the Nielsen family. I say I'm going to ride off into the sunrise, not the sunset, and Marilyn and I are going to spend more time together. Best thing I've ever done in life is to be worthy of that woman's love. And we enjoy ourselves so much. We've both been busy people, and now we're going to be a little bit busier for each other. Excuse me if I get a little bit verbose, but ladies and gentlemen, this comes from the heart. At this institution that I revere, I treasure. And I ask you to revere it and treasure it similarly. and uphold its traditions. Respect each other, respect the rules of the House, and serve the people that you represent. God love you all. Thank you.